microburst was a walk in the park compared to what we've got now, to be honest with you. Microburst was in very selected areas, was not widespread. There were certain areas that were affected. There was a lot of damage in those areas. This is much, much more severe than that, much more severe.
We're waging a war with Mother Nature, and at this point in time, early in the storm, we're losing it. We're taking 2 steps back for every 1 step forward. As a matter of fact, a lot of our concern is about the safety of the people out in the field. We've had to pull some people out of some situations where poles and trees were coming down as fast as we were putting them up. So the damage is really hard to assess. We're mobilizing like it is a true war. We've got a lot of great people involved, a lot of help from other companies, and it's the worst one that we've had of this nature. It's probably, well, I guess for a regional storm, not a system-wide storm, this is clearly the worst we've had.
A large power outage in Canada tops our coverage of the world tonight. In Quebec, 8 transmission towers collapsed under the weight of ice on the cables following a fierce storm. More than 650,000 people have been without power since early this morning.
It started in Canada as one of those stories you see on the news and express thanks that it doesn't affect you. Then, the night of January 6th, it began to spread south.
Overnight, rain showers moving back in.
Meteorologists didn't expect it. There were few words of warning, no forecasts of heavy icing. Just the ongoing story of flooding in the North Country. But Niagara Mohawk people knew. They could see the ice building up and parts of the system going down, starting in the upper reaches of St. Lawrence County. The ice continued to accumulate throughout the day on January 7th. With all available Northern Region personnel already pressed into service, the call went out for Niagara Mohawk crews from other regions.
The ice has never melted. It has continued to increase for 3 days. Anything that we've tried to do for 3 days has usually fallen down, and additionally, we're losing ground. It's different in the fact that the weather forecast is now going to be in the single digits in 5 days from now. There doesn't appear to be any opportunity that the ice situation itself is going to relieve itself.
It quickly became apparent that more help would be needed. Mutual aid was requested from throughout New York and other eastern states.
In the very beginning, we were shifting regional workforces into the areas where the initial ice concentration was, for lack of a better term, an annoyance, where everything was under control, it was in a concentrated area, we're doing very well. When it really started to go bad for us on Wednesday night and Thursday, we asked for tremendous amounts of assistance from both within Niagara Mohawk system and from neighboring utilities through the Inter-Utility Assistance Council. We got crews from Pennsylvania and down in West Virginia. Would have had some crews from other places, but unfortunately they got committed to the Quebec, the Canadian emergency that unfortunately preceded us by a couple of days.
The ice is a few inches thick on all of the trees, which for the most part are broken, poles and wires down everywhere. This is the worst situation I have ever seen, and the Northern Region people have ever seen. I've talked to crews from various parts of our service territory, and they're working hard and very upbeat and very dedicated, but have said that they don't feel that they're accomplishing very much because as soon as they put the facilities up, they're back down again. Weather conditions are not helping us. Hopefully that will improve. We are going to have over 500 crews here working throughout the northern region, so we certainly have a significant number of people. Over 100,000 customers are still out right now. We have really not been able to restore service to many at all. We have some customers on the downtown network in Watertown because that is fed by the hydro plant. But even the hydro plant has been down because of the debris that's washing through the river, and they've had to shut down too. We have not been able to do a proper assessment of the situation. We have people who've been out walking all of the circuits and getting as good an assessment as they can. We need to get helicopters in the air, though, to determine how much transmission damage we have. With the number of crews that we have here in total, we are right now running the largest utility operation in the entire United States.
Because of the inability to really do any survey or assessment work on Thursday and Friday and until Saturday, and even Saturday and beyond, our employees who were out there trying to do detailed damage assessments were literally in danger, as were all of our restoration people who on Thursday and Friday were out there with, it was very futile to try to make permanent restoration to plant because it was literally falling down around us.
With a break in the weather on Saturday, aerial assessments revealed the extent of the damage.
We've got literally thousands of poles down, thousands of transformers down. We have no 115 kV transmission system. We have no sub-transmission system at this time. In order to repair that on such a large scale, even with the number of crews that we have, which is almost 600 now, it's still going to take time, and the material has to be shipped in. We don't have enough material at this time to rebuild the region that quickly. My personal opinion is to be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks before it's all done.
Past experience has given the residents of northern New York the ability to make a fairly accurate assessment of the storm.
I say I've been in this country for 60 years, and this is the worst storm that I have been into. And it looks like we will be without power for up to a month.
It's one of the worst storms that I've ever seen in my life. I'm just thankful that we're very safe here and we have heat with our wood stove and a little generator.
A contingent of more than 700 crews faced the danger of working with trees and equipment heavily laden with ice. The storm finally ended during the late night hours of Friday, January 9th. A massive logistical effort was already underway to mobilize the necessary manpower, equipment, supplies, and managerial expertise.
We're managing this organizationally as if for the next 2 or 3 weeks, however long it takes. It's one of the largest utility operations going. With the number of crews we have, we're going to have over 700, and we're requesting more. Logistically, you can imagine it's a nightmare to try to get people fed and bedded down when the lights are out.
Early on, it was very difficult going because we were doing a lot of work and customers were not coming back online because of our lack of transmission. Now that we're seeing actual customer restoration results due to the efforts, I think the line mechanics and the support folks in the field are feeling much better. Clearly, it's a tiring effort.
The Emergency Communications Office quickly expanded from a staff of 1 to 21.
I've got some of that information. I took it off the internet.
The emergency planning department during an emergency expands to become a communications center. We expanded on Sunday of the storm from 1 room, which is my office, to 3 rooms. We now have a command post in my office. We have an administrative center in room 103 next door, and we have a project room, which we're in right now, in room 105. And Ann Brannigan now has us staffed from 8 in the morning till 11 at night, all through next week of the storm. So we're in our 9th day today, but we're getting the job done.
The Niagara Mohawk Customer Service Center received an influx of calls from residents and business owners who were able to get to working telephones. By coordinating with the Storm Center, customer service representatives had access to continuously updated information and were able to let customers know when they might have power back on. Statewide, all essential services were pressed into 24-hour-a-day operation.
We're averaging 18 trucks a day out of here with material for the storm. We're also probably getting about 8 trucks at night. So we're receiving and distribution of material all at the same time.
What we're about to do here today is take this run to Watertown, following many loads after that. We just can't get them there quick enough. But we're trying. We're trying to keep it in good perspective and trying to get those people back into service.
Outside suppliers responded in much the same way, doing whatever was necessary to fulfill requests for construction materials and supplies. Some, like wooden utility poles, were shipped in from as far away as Oregon.
We organized a massive effort, and I mean a massive effort. We pulled them from Alabama in 4 locations. We pulled them from Mississippi in a couple locations, Georgia, about 3 locations. We pulled from all our other yards, our Kentucky yard, our Virginia yard, Ohio yards, Illinois yards that already had similar yards like this that had stock on the ground already made. So we've pulled them in Virginia quite a bit because they have plants in southern Virginia too.
We loaded these poles in Bruton, Alabama Wednesday. I get headed from Miami, Florida up there to get the load, and we were here last night about early this morning, 1 o'clock. It's just been hustle all the time, you know, to get here, to bring your poles up here.
It's been 24 hours for over a week now. We've been stopping just basically laying our heads on a desk for a couple hours, about 3, 4 in the morning, and the driver's been working around the clock nonstop. They'd stop for a couple hours, climb the bunk for a little nap, and keep right on going. I mean, it's been a long week. I can't even imagine if I had to calculate the hours how much it's been.
We've seen trucks from we've run across trucks bringing poles up here from other places in Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi too. They're all coming up here into this area and on up into Canada going.
Food, water, shelter, generators, clothing, fuel, all had to be shipped in to support the massive influx of workers. People in the field now face temperatures in the single digits and lake effect snow, making working conditions marginal at best.
Well, slowly we're making some progress here. We're currently running 3 different electrical systems up here. Our system is split into 3. I'm hoping tonight or early tomorrow to begin the process to synchronize in parallel with New York Power Authority and New York State Gas and Electric. We're hoping tonight, late tonight, to pick up the Thousand Island region, which has been absolutely devastated. They've been out of power now for 11 days, and we should be ready tonight to pick them up. That will pick up customers all the way from Alex Bay region, all through the islands, all the way down to Cape Vincent. I really have to say that the effort here has been phenomenal. The logistics are staggering, but we are making progress. Our system is weak at the present time, but we're hoping over the next several weeks to strengthen it up.
Mutual aid crews brought in from states with more temperate winter climates experienced both the harsh weather and cordial people of northern New York.
We have 2 contingents from Carolina Power and Light Company up here in New York. One group containing 77 people, 60 linemen. Another group, 45 linemen, 56 people, including our support people. We have approximately 80 vehicles here, 4-wheel drives with winches and those types of things to help. I know during Fran, a lot of people came to help us in 1996, so we're kind of here to repay the favor.
When someone's been out of power as long as these folks have, it'd be reasonable to expect them to be irritable, to have short fuses. Haven't seen any of that. Everybody has been real positive, very patient, and I think you have to attribute that to their coming together.
And once we got here, after the 3rd day, they adopted us, and we kind of adopted them, and they have been so good to us. So I don't know what else I can say to express our gratitude to these people, because they really opened their hearts to us.
Niagara Mohawk people merged with mutual aid crews to form teams, which performed like they had worked together for years.
We're a crew from Pennsylvania Power and Light Company, a transmission crew. I'm afraid you're going to put too much strain on that pin, too much side strain. So they're going to go up and bridge it They're going to bridge the insulators, take a strain on the guy, move that band around manually, and reposition it. But in the meantime, we could probably take the our wire up. You could hook your hoist on it and bring that whole structure around with the one side.
Get with Brian
It
down
won't
there.
affect this at all.
Get with Brian down there.
Yeah.
Pull that pole back while we're going there.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds like a plan, man.
We came up with a contingent of 29 people. We have a crew from Bethlehem and Allentown area, a crew from Scranton and Hazelton area, and a crew from Williamsport area. And we're here to assist in the restoration of the transmission network. We've been here since Saturday, and it seems like things are coming together.
One week into the restoration effort, Niagara Mohawk was field managing over 1,300 crews. That's over 4,000 people. With power still out to 92,000 customers, the effects on the area's businesses and residents were becoming critical. Farmers were the hardest hit.
The farmers are obviously critical customers. They, with the size of the herds now, they rely on electricity to do their milking. We have worked with the county to help install generators, to help obtain generators for them and the National Guard to install. It's been crucial. We also expedited bringing back the processing plants so that the farmers had a place to send their milk. At the early part of the storm, they were just basically dumping it on the ground.
We only had to dump our milk 3 milkings, but there's some people that are still dumping it. If they're what's happened to some of them is they're sharing generators, and what happens is they'll milk, and then the other guy's just standing there waiting to get the generator, and they don't get their milk cooled, and this caused some high bacteria milk, and it's hard. They don't have time to cool their milk if they share it with 3-4 people, and some of them did.
The farmers have to be supplied with dairy feed, and when this whole thing happened, we were shut down completely. Our mill is run basically on 3-phase, and of course it's really difficult to find generators for 3-phase. So for the first 3 or 4 days, we were going through and buying feed out of Liverpool, New York, and some other different feed companies around the state to get us through.
This ice storm has been very devastating on us and on the dairy farmers in the 3-county area. We've since last Wednesday, I believe, we have had a generator which is costing us a little over $3,000 a week to operate, plus diesel fuel and this type of thing. I did hear something on the radio about somebody from North Carolina mentioning that he's been through hurricanes and so on and so forth down there, and he said he's never seen people that can pull together like they can in northern New York. So that's kind of positive thing that we like to see. Of course, we don't know how much longer we're all going to be able to last because it's kind of tough right now.
It was unbelievable to watch the storm on Thursday. We got up, our lights went out at 10 minutes to 5, or 10 minutes after 5 Thursday morning, and it just kept raining and raining, and it was just unbelievable to watch it build up. You knew it was going to be terrible. By the next morning, we had limbs that had 3 inches of ice on it.
Governor Pataki made several inspection tours of the area and sought assistance from other government representatives in an effort to acquire assistance for those most affected by the financial hardships of the storm.
I am encouraged, and I will say this to you, that the Congressman and I have been working to try and get the Department of Agriculture to look at the plight that our dairy farmers are in, because we're talking about a community under tremendous distress, both short-term and long-term, and they desperately need help.
Many residents, tempered by the elements and educated by past experience, were prepared for a power outage. But no one enjoyed the return to turn-of-the-century living for such an extended period of time.
We're really very fortunate, but I think it's been as a result of experience. I mean, we had the microburst, the last ice storm, and now this. So by the third time around, you need to have learned something, and if you can manage to, you know, not forget that it's really hard to live without electricity and, you know, afford to pick up some items and get them hooked into your system, that really helps a lot. I think it'd be very, very difficult to have absolutely nothing, no electricity or any capability to get any. I know several of our neighbors have really had a hard time with flooding, and just trying to keep a sump pump running with a generator is tough.
The first few days, if you will, or longer, that all of the people who came to assist us, and I don't mean just line crews, I mean our damage survey people, our service crew people, our stations people, our gas people, anybody who came here to assist us, wound up in the beginning staying in cold, dark motel rooms. We drew up on generators, a resource available to us, probably not ever used this extensively in any other effort at Niagara Mohawk. In fact, at one time we had over 17 megawatts of generation on our system, providing either energy to hotels for our use, or we actually went into distribution stations and separated the station from the sub-transmission system and energized the station bus to at least pick up a village where we could pick up a fire hall or a school or an elementary school to provide shelter to people.
Over 8,000 North Country residents were not as fortunate. They were forced to leave freezing homes for the safety of emergency shelters. But shelter life brought its own hardships.
What we're specifically doing is going from shelter to shelter, offering primary care medical services to the residents of the shelters and providing them with medical services until the emergency is over and they can get back to their regular doctors. Typically what we're seeing are the common problems in shelters, respiratory illnesses that are contagious and passed from infant to infant to infant, or from adult to adult to adult. Things like respiratory illnesses, colds, flu, ear infections, some cases of pneumonia, diarrhea, and sometimes advice for chronic problems where the patient is not able to get to see the regular doctor. But most of them have been respiratory illnesses. I'm impressed by the consideration and the common camaraderie that they've given each other, that people are helping each other, and they're taking very good care of their children even under very difficult circumstances, and really supporting each other through this. And I think they are getting a little tired of this, as would be expected after being here for a couple of weeks. But I think everybody has done a really good job of taking care of each other.
Through it all, employee morale remained good. As difficult as it was, everyone remained focused on getting the job done safely.
The Niagara Mohawk crews, as well as other utility crews, for the most part, are working very, very safely. Especially the Niagara Mohawk crews, we're very, very proud of what we've seen. All the hard work and all the effort that we've put into safety up to this point has obviously paid off. We're very proud of what we're seeing and very confident that they're going to continue to do their job safely.
Everybody seems to be coping with things pretty well up here, really. So, lot to do yet, though.
We've been working basically around the clock. They've been picking material to send up north, and we've been just all real tired, but we're hanging in there, and everybody's kind of being troopers about it all.
Everyone has come together, and it's great. It's something I've never seen before and never will again, and it's just great. You're meeting a lot of people, and everyone's really pulling together. Everyone's working long hours, and it's great. You know, everyone, the community also is very appreciative. Everywhere we go, they are just very happy, and they tell us, and it makes you feel good. We get tears in our eyes because we're so overwhelmed. We'll go home, so it's not forever. It's not forever, yes.
As is typical in northern New York, sunny days alternated with heavy lake-effect snows. Even the brightest days hampered restoration efforts, with sub-zero temperatures. The storm took out 27 of the northern region's 115 kV feeders, essentially knocking out all transmission. It also flattened 11 46 kV lines, 6 34.5 kV lines, 30 23 kV lines, and 146 distribution circuits. Repairs would require 553 transmission poles, each 70 to 100 feet long. Only 5 could fit onto a truck at one time. They are difficult to acquire and had to be shipped in from as far away as Nevada and Oregon. Approximately 8,000 distribution poles were destroyed or damaged. They range in size from 40 to 55 feet. Niagara Mohawk annually uses about 15,000 of these poles system-wide. That meant that 2/3 of the annual requirement had to be filled in a single week. In addition, 1.8 million feet of cable, 2,000 transformers, 13,000 cross arms, and 30,000 splices. More than 4 times Niagara Mohawk's usual annual usage were needed. In a single day during the week of January 12, more than 10,000 pounds of health and safety supplies were shipped in to support the storm crews. Purchased from vendors across the country were non-typical items, including blankets, pillows, sleeping bags, cots, soap, toothpaste, long underwear, and hats. With convoys of trucks and trailers making their way to New York's northern regions, it looked like a military operation. There was some humor as well. One order for 200 chapsticks resulted in a shipment of 200 chopsticks.
Well, we're into day 10, but...
Bill Davis assessed the financial impact of the storm on Niagara Mohawk.
This storm is likely to be in excess of $100 million in cost. That's a rough estimate at this point in time, but it's going to be clearly the most expensive storm that this company has ever had to deal with. And under normal circumstances, the federal disaster assistance sources of support are not available to investor-owned utilities. We're looking at other options, other possibilities. We've been told that in some circumstances, community development block grant monies may be available, may be able to be earmarked as part of a federal government emergency appropriation to deal with a disaster, earmarked for the use of utilities in dealing with the cost of the problem. So that's one thing we're looking into. We're also looking into, even though we don't have specific storm insurance, we have a lot of general insurance policies. We're looking at all of them to see if there's any part of the cost of this that can be a legitimate claim against the insurance policies that we have.
As the restoration work moved out from major population centers, the effort and expense required to make repairs increased substantially. Like Grindstone Island, where helicopters and ships were required to deliver materials, equipment, and personnel. A very costly effort, which resulted in the restoration of power for just 6 customers.
One thing, you have a lot of rural areas where you put 15 miles of wire on and 5 customers are hot, you know, but you have to do that to restore everybody. So just, like I said, one pole at a time.
Power was restored to the last customer just 3 weeks after the start of the full-scale restoration effort. A long time to be without power, but less than half the time originally estimated. In many areas, the system was rebuilt from the ground up. It will take nature substantially longer to repair the environment.
And you could even look at long-term damage of disease to trees that have been severely damaged that may be causing us problems years from now. And we're going to have widowmakers coming down, we're going to have taps flying, we're going to have insulators, we're going to have arms still break, and we just can imagine that it's going to be an ongoing effort over the next year or even longer. In a few weeks, we're going to start a massive detailed damage survey appraisal by damage survey teams. As a matter of fact, today we're even out flying our transmission system to get a handle on where temporary repairs have been made. I don't want to confuse temporary with only lasting a few weeks, but will certainly last into the construction season. We're taking into consideration the weather, looking into this construction season where we'll have longer daylight hours and more hospitable working conditions. And we're trying to get a handle on the resources needed, both labor and material, and probably sometime in this construction season in the spring, we'll have to see a contingent of labor come back to the northern region to assist our regular organization with more permanent repairs. We have some sub-transmission lines to build. We have permanent repairs to make to the transmission system, the 115, including setting some poles and replacing some structures that are right now okay, but their integrity may be in question down the road. It's being assessed by our transmission design people. And we may certainly be out in the summer setting more transmission-type wood pole structures to replace steel towers that need to be replaced. And we'll look backwards someday and think, you know, personally I went through the ice storm of '91 and called that a career storm. I went through microburst and said, now I've had my career storm. And I won't say this time that this is my career storm.
This ice storm caused more damage to Niagara Mohawk system than any other single event in our history. We are exceptionally proud of the men and women of this company. They demonstrated the ability to mobilize and manage a workforce and supply lines that was equal to the challenge. And our customers were reminded that they can depend on us to respond with world-class service. We certainly hope that disaster will never strike again, but reality has a way of circumventing hope. So, when a power outage does occur, large or small, wherever our customers are, we'll be there to help.